Last week, the Canadian government announced proposed legislation for revenge porn. This is pornographic images posted online without the subject's permission. Under the proposed bill, people who distribute intimate images without consent could face up to 5 years in prison. This comes a little over a month since California passed its own law banning some forms of revenge porn. One of the biggest advocates behind the new California law is Charlotte Laws. Her daughter Kayla became a victim of the infamous, now defunct revenge porn site Is Anyone Up? And Charlotte's efforts to target the site's creator, Hunter Moore, and to scrub the net clean of her daughter's image led to months of harassment. She's written an article, an account of her family's nightmarish journey to partial justice. And Charlotte Laws joins me by phone from her home in Los Angeles. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
I want to talk about the legislation in more detail later, but take us back, Charlotte. You became involved in fighting against revenge porn because images of your daughter were posted on a sketchy site called Is Anyone Up? How did they get there?
She was hacked. A group of her friends were actually hacked, and the hacker was specifically looking for nude and topless pictures. In fact, he was hacking into people's emails all over the country, and the website was paying hackers for photos. And so she was targeted. She never sent a photo to anyone, but she was targeted after that by commenters and by her information went on the site, her name, her city, her link to her social media, and it was truly devastating for her.
Well, it is truly devastating and painful to read about her reactions to this when she finds this out in your article. Give us a sense of that. How did she react when she first found out this stuff was posted, and what would the immediate effects were on her?
Well, she was really like a traditional rape victim. She was withdrawn. She didn't want to leave her room. She didn't want to have an online presence anymore. This is really common with victims of revenge porn. And I had never heard about it before when she first mentioned it to me. And I realized that I would have to undergo a serious mission to get this picture down because the website operator simply refused to remove photos, and he refused my request. I made a legal Digital Millennium Copyright Act request, which is a takedown notice, and according to copyright law, he is supposed to expeditiously remove photos, but he refused, which he bragged about doing with everyone. So I used to be a private investigator in the 1980s, and so I just launched this investigation, and in the meantime, I started contacting other victims on the site. I found out that of the individuals in my investigation, 40% of them had been hacked, 12% of them had been photoshopped. In other words, they had never even taken a nude picture, but it was their head from a closed shot, which was stuck on a new body, but their reputation was being ruined. And so I ended up getting together this group of victims and handing over information about the various victims to the FBI. And the FBI launched an investigation. They raided his house last year. They took his cell phone, his computer, his electronics. I assume they also raided the hacker's house. I don't know who the hacker is specifically, but he went by the fake name Gary Jones. And it ended up being a huge ordeal because Hunter Moore has a great deal of followers, even to this day. Okay, Charlotte, let me just stop you there. You're saying a lot. I want to take one step at a time in terms of all that you said. There's a lot of important information there. So, first of all, just for some context, your daughter just took these for fun herself. These were selfies, right? Yeah, she took selfies in the mirror with her cell phone, and she had taken over 100 pictures, and one of them was topless. And she set the entire lot through her cell phone, through her email, and then to get them to her computer. And that was in October of 2011. It was January 1st of 2012, 3 months later when she was actually hacked. And 9 days later, the topless picture appeared on the website.
Okay, so, I mean, we are used to thinking when people hear revenge porn, they hear of this practice as coming out of revenge, that ex-lovers post these images in anger, and that certainly can happen. But Hunter Moore has maintained that the images on his site were just that. How common is what your family experienced, the hacking?
Well, it was common in the study that I did of this particular website. I can't say about the others. Actually, no, I can say because we have some studies. I think it was 25% of people, according to the Cyber Civil Rights Initiative, say that they have been hacked. So that they've had nude pictures hacked. So I think it's a fairly high percentage. It's like a fourth of the people have been hacked. But it is hard to say from my perspective as far as other websites because I never did any sort of investigation of other sites. Although I've talked to many victims of other websites.
And briefly, how does the hacking work? Do you know?
Well, it was kind of complicated. They did it through Facebook, and they would somehow take over one person's Facebook account, and then they would and get into that person's email, and then they would try to get into the other friends' emails, and it had to do with people who had Gmail accounts, Yahoo accounts. When you had an email account that was an online account, and then somehow they would use the lost password setting with the Gmail saying I lost the password and then getting a code set to the cell phone. It was that kind of hacking. It wasn't specifically going into a computer or going into an email. It was actually duping people and getting them basically to give you a code and getting in that way through their friends.
And presumably, sorry, go ahead.
No. Just making the friends think that you were a different friend and kind of working it that way. It was kind of complicated. That's why I usually don't explain it on the radio.
well, presumably there was a financial incentive for the hackers to post to the site. I mean, Hunter Moore has admitted to paying some people to post images. Do we know if he actually paid hackers like the so-called Gary Jones to post to the site?
Hunter Moore has publicly said in the media that he paid hackers. I don't know if I don't think he's publicly said that he paid Gary Jones. I think he's very nervous about saying anything at this point because he's said a lot of things that are incriminating. And there is still an FBI investigation that's open, and I'm sure his attorney has told him not to talk to the press, which is why he hasn't spoken to the media for the most part since November of last year.
When you found out that your daughter's image was out there, commendably, I mean, you went into full investigative mode to try and get the image removed, and you actually, as you say, you used to work as a private investigator. What kind of resistance, Charlotte, did you face in getting your daughter's image down?
Well, it was frightening because I would get bombarded. When Hunter Moore found out about me, that I was going after, trying to get the picture down and going after him, essentially, I would get 20 viruses on my computer in one day. I mean, just bombarded. I got death threats. At one point, there was a guy sitting outside of my house, some guy in a car, in a white car. He came to my house 2 separate times. So it was kind of frightening because Hunter Moore has so many avid followers, and they like engaging in humiliating and hurting people, and they consider themselves evil, and they enjoy that. So it was scary because these are all these faceless people out there, and I don't know who they are, and I don't know who's making death threats to me. I don't know why I'm getting all these viruses on my computer. It's scary. It really is.
Well, you contacted other women, as you say, whose images were posted on the Is Anyone Up site. Eventually you got the FBI involved in the case. I mean, Hunter Moore is often prone to hyperbole, but he did say previously that he would kill whoever was behind the FBI probe. What happened to you then as a result of him finding out that you were behind the FBI investigation?
Yeah, when he found out, that's when I got the most backlash as far as the most viruses on the computer. I got several death threats at that time, and that's when the guy in the white car was outside of my house, and I got a lot of backlash on Twitter as well. I got locks for my gates. I was particularly worried about my animals because I felt they were the most vulnerable creatures on the property, and then I had this very bizarre contact through Twitter, actually through direct message on Twitter initially, and then I got a phone call from this guy who said, we're going to protect you. He said, I'm with the underground group Anonymous. Don't worry. We're going to protect you. We're going after Hunter Moore. And I found out this was true because they did go after Hunter Moore the next day. I wasn't sure if it was a crank call initially. And I felt so much more safe and protected when I knew that I had Anonymous on my side because obviously they're experts in technology, which I'm not. And when they went after Hunter, I guess they doxed him, which means they put his personal information information online, including his social security number. They crashed his servers, and when Anonymous went after him, he basically became very quiet. And I mean, all he did was his little Twitter feed, and he pretty much seemed to be not out there trying to cause trouble. He just seemed like he was very quiet at that time. So I felt like it really worked, in other words.
Well, it worked, but after a lot of, I find that the hardest part of reading your story is recognizing that when these kind of images appear, intimate images in this case of your daughter, but appear online, to try and get them removed has to become almost your life's work, as it was for you for a long time. How did you, and I'm not sure if most people aren't former private investigators either, how did you eventually get all your daughter's images removed?
Well, my daughter, she only had one image. She was actually quite lucky because we got it down fairly quickly, and then after that I started helping other victims try to get their pictures down. But I got it down because my husband is an attorney, which seriously helps. I mean, having a former private eye for a mother and an attorney for a stepfather, which my daughter has, was actually quite a benefit.
Right.
And I got him in touch with Hunter Moore's attorney, and they had a very stern conversation and said, I'm walking into court in 30 minutes, and that's it. You know, it's down in 30 minutes, or that's it. You know, we're going to sue you. And he also disclosed that there was a FBI investigation at that time, and in 20 minutes her picture was down. Then I was able to get the president of the internet security company that was working for Hunter's site. I got him to help us, and he was able to block the images of some of the victims. So even though their names were still on the site, the images were blocked. And so that really helped a lot of the victims from our group. We also got Hunter banned from PayPal. We got him kicked off of Facebook numerous times. So we were, really working all together. I mean, there was a huge number of people working in this, and we were in alliance with Facebook, the FBI, Anonymous was helping us. We had all these victims working together. It took this much effort to go against the nastiness of revenge porn. It was amazing the effort that we had to expend.
Okay, so you were very involved in the effort to get legislation passed in California that would outlaw revenge porn. Yet the law that did pass would actually not have protected your daughter, I understand. What is missing?
Well, it doesn't. The California law in its current form does not include self-shots. So, in other words, someone else has to take the picture of you and upload it to the website in order for you to be protected. Also, the perpetrator has to have an intent to cause severe emotional distress. And so I feel those are two huge barriers. And Senator Cannella, who brought forth this legislation, agrees. And he really always had the intent of an amendment. And he will be announcing that amendment on December 7th in Fresno. And I am going to be present and make a little speech at that time. And we are hoping that we're going to be able to strengthen the law.
The proposed federal legislation in Canada would ban distributing any intimate images, regardless of who took the photos or how they are acquired. What do you make of that proposal?
I think that's wonderful. I think that the Canadian law is very similar to our law in New Jersey. And I think it seems comprehensive, and it seems like it's going to protect victims as far as I can tell.
How's your daughter? How's Kayla doing now?
She's doing fine now that the picture's down. I mean, when it was up was what was distressing, and now that it's off the internet, she's fine. But we do have Google alerts on her name, and that's the problem with revenge porn. You basically have to monitor the internet for the rest of your life to make sure that picture does not pop up again.
And I understand she continues to face threats that the image will be reposted, right? How seriously are you taking those threats?
Well, yeah, there was somebody on Twitter said yesterday they were reposting the image on another site, and yeah, I mean, I hope that doesn't happen. I am very happy that Anonymous has contacted me since the article and said we're still here if you need us, and that makes me feel good. And I am glad the FBI is still working on, hopefully combating revenge porn from their end.
Charlotte Laws, thank you for this today.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Charlotte Laws helped develop the recent California law banning some forms of revenge porn. She spoke to me from Los Angeles today.